Hello, I'm Huntsley and welcome to the latest edition in the Market Index Company Insight series. Today we're talking to Xanadu Mines. It's an ASX-listed copper gold exploration and development company, and shares are up 43% so far in 2023. And I'm delighted to say that today we are joined by Spencer Cole and Andrew Stewart to learn more about the company's projects, plans, and of course its current activity. Thank you both for joining me.
Thank you.
Andrew, I might start with you. Could you give us just a brief introduction to Xanadu and specifically provide some detail on your Kharmagtai project?
Yeah, okay. As you said, Xanadu is a copper and gold exploration company. We're focused on Mongolia and very focused in Mongolia in the South Gobi region of Mongolia. Our Kharmagtai project, it was a project we acquired in 2015 and over the last 5 to 6 years with some aggressive exploration, we've taken this to be one of the biggest copper and gold assets, resources now on the ASX. It's a very large copper and gold resource, as I said. It's an open pit project. It's located in an area of fantastic infrastructure. And as I said, it's been growing and continues to grow, but we're in a position now that we're starting a PFS. We're well funded, and probably one of the few companies on the ASX now funded through that, take a project forward. So we sit here today and hopefully in the next 5 or 6 years you'll see a very successful copper project.
So when you say it's one of the largest on the ASX, can you just give us a sense of the scale of the asset?
Over 1 billion tonnes of resource, contains 3 million tonnes of copper and over 8 million ounces of gold. So that ranks as one of the largest resources on the ASX today.
So tell us then about some of the plans and the options that you've got for developing this particular asset.
So, we're blessed. The beauty of working in Mongolia and being one of the first movers in country was you're able to get on the ground and find those assets. And, this is an open cut pit project. It's a very low strip ratio. It's very simple, a very vanilla project. We're not talking about a project that's very deep. It requires underground mining. First 30 years will be an open pit project with a very low strip ratio. So that's a unique position to be in for a copper company or a copper developer today in the market.
Okay, so you say that you've got a PFS already ready to go. Talk to us about the
PFS is underway now.
Okay, the PFS is underway.
We've
okay,
completed
so
the scoping study,
okay,
and now we're moving into the PFS.
Okay, so what happens after that? If you could give us a sense of, say, the milestones maybe to come in the next 12, 18 months.
The main milestones next 12 months is we're very active on the ground today as we speak. We're drilling with 5 rigs. We're probably looking to expand that a little bit. We have 4 rigs doing the infill drilling, 30,000 metre program, and we have a 24,000 metre exploration program going at the same time. So not only one of the biggest resources, probably one of the most active exploration companies out there today. So we will have a new resource in Q3 this year. That's probably the first milestone you'll see. And then we'll be working through to presenting a PFS midway through next year.
Yeah, right. I'm interested that you were telling me that the project is based in Mongolia. The other major project that I can think of in Mongolia is the Oyu Tolgoi mine, right, run by Rio Tinto. So what is it like operating in Mongolia from an operational standpoint?
From an operational standpoint, it's absolutely fantastic. This is the most sparsely populated country in the world. And because we've had this discovery, we're only 100 kilometres from Oyu Tolgoi. Because we've had this discovery where we've had major coal developments. We've had obviously one of the biggest copper developments in the world in Oyu Tolgoi in the last 2 decades. That's brought all this infrastructure into this area. So here we are. We've got power. We've got an established water resource. We have infrastructure. We have rail. All this infrastructure's happened around us as we've progressed this project the last 5 years. So what that means is it's low risk for development. We don't have to worry. We're not in the high Andes, we're not at altitude, we don't have to worry about hanging a tailings dam off the side of a cliff. All these things, it's a very flat terrain on the doorstep of the world's biggest consumer with most sparsely populated country in the world. So it's actually a great place to develop a project. And I think that's important too because there's a little bit of misunderstanding around Oyu Tolgoi too, because when you look at Oyu Tolgoi, that was a project that went from discoveries in the early 2000s. Rio Tinto got involved in 2006, 2008. The open pit went into commercial production in 2013, which is quite remarkable because I was looking at some numbers this week, and from once you have your discovery, you start your scoping study, do your PFS, do your BFS, and take it through to final decision to invest. That's now about 12 to 15 years in most parts of the world. You know, the competitive advantage we have is we have a very large copper project down the road that went in that process in less than 4 years. So that's because you have the infrastructure and you have those benefits, low ESG risk.
Yeah, all right. Spencer, maybe from the financial standpoint and being CFO, how do you find operating in Mongolia?
Look, from a financial standpoint, it's not any different than anywhere else. You have your team in Mongolia. You comply with Mongolian rules, and you do your funding as you would anywhere else. Xanadu is listed on the ASX and on the TSX. Most of our funding up till recently has been via equity placements on those two exchanges, and primarily the ASX. But in March, we completed a deal with Xijin Mining, which is a top 10 copper miner, and Xijin has purchased 20% of Xanadu and also funded $35 million into the project, which means we're fully funded through a Singapore entity, and that funding will see us all the way through to the end of the PFS, as well as the exploration drilling that we're doing in parallel.
Well, I'm glad you mentioned Xijin. Let's stay with you if we can.
Sure.
Of course, explorers and developers are reliant on equity markets to help fund their activities. I understand you've just recently raised capital. You're talking about Xijin as a project partner. Can you explain a little more about your financing plans and maybe the requirements you'll need?
The financing plans, as I said, Xijin has invested $35 million into the Kharmagtai Project, US 35. That's enough to fully complete the pre-feasibility study and take us to a financial investment decision. After which you're talking about construction, which is significantly larger funding. There's several different options for funding that construction. Xanadu's share of it would be, could be equity, could be debt. We also have put options in our deal with Xijin that would see debt funding through Xijin. So there's a few different paths we could take, but in the short term, we are fully funded to complete that project.
Yep. So just finally then, I mentioned at the beginning of this interview, shares in Xanadu have had a strong run in recent times. Let me put to you the question, why is it the case?
If you were looking at Xanadu a year ago, we had a great project, but we didn't have a credible means to fund it. If you look at Xanadu now, we have a very credible means to fund it. We have a partner who has funded the next stage of development, who has the balance sheet to take this thing all the way to construction and experience doing it. So this has gone from a big project in the hands of a little company to a big project with a clear path through to construction. So it's de-risked, and it's a different investment thesis for someone when it looks at it.
All right, Spencer and Andrew, thank you very much for joining us, the both of you. Thank you.
Thank you.
And if you enjoyed that, please do subscribe to our YouTube channel. And of course, there's great content there coming all the time. Thanks for joining us.